What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Canadian Football Fanatics YouTube and Twitter accounts. You are tuning in to another BC Lions post-game episode here on the Canadian Football Fanatics, and thank you guys for tuning in and watching here tonight on the show, or I should say this afternoon. As you can see, solo episode for me today. Unfortunately, Blake is a little bit caught up at reffing, so I don't believe he will be able to join us. Although you never know, folks, he might be able to pop in here and there. But other than that, the Lions are coming off a 24-21 victory over the Edmonton Elks yesterday, and was a an up and down game. I think there was a few things to hang your hat on that are some positives, but also some negatives that are definitely starting to become trends for the BC Lions. So interested to see and interested to talk about it and see reactions from the BC Lions fan base is what I meant to say. But before we get into everything as we do on the BC Lions post game, obviously we are not post game here. We are Friday afternoon. Obviously the Lions played last night, that being Thursday. And being over at the game, wasn't able to record a post-game show last night with Blake. Blake was coming home from the game, and then myself, obviously, going back to Vancouver Island. So wasn't able to record a post-game show last night. That being said, still going to get a post-game recap, if that's what you want to call it, or just a, I guess, BC Lions versus the Edmonton Elks game recap here today on the show. So the plan for today, obviously, as always, we'll do likes, dislikes, game balls. We'll go through a game recap quickly, and talk a little bit about just how we're feeling about the BC Lions and their 24-21 victory yesterday in BC Place. So before we get going, folks, if you guys are tuning in on Twitter or on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe. If you guys are following on Twitter, please head on over to the YouTube and subscribe as well. Blake and I are 3 days away from our goal set of July 1st, Canada Day, of trying to hit 200 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So if you guys could, please head over there and subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. When you guys do, turn on post notifications. You guys get notified every time Blake and I go live, or in case if it's tonight, unless it's just me going live tonight. So please subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. And let's get into it without further ado. And yesterday was pretty cool for me, being able to be in BC Place for the first time as a, I guess, official member of the media, if that's what you want to call it. For those that don't know, that are tuning in for the first time, I applied for my media pass earlier in the week. Was able to get it through the BC Lions. So I was able to have access, able to sit in the press box and watch the game, and have a super cool opportunity to cover the game, be able to watch it from a pretty unique perspective. The press box has pretty nice view from up top there, and then as well, kind of take in, things like warm up from field level, really get a good feel of kind of the atmosphere on the playing field, as well as a few other things that were pretty cool. So. Hopefully just the beginning as far as my media covering standpoint, but super cool for me that was my first game, able to cover a CFL team, a CFL game, I guess I should say. And I guess I should lastly shout out to Matt Baker and the BC Lions for making all that possible, for giving me allowing me that opportunity. Just super grateful for how gracious they've been, and how helpful they've been in kind of growing my brand as well, being Matt kind of helping me book players coming on the show and stuff like that, as well as having some access like that. So shout out to Matt, thank you so much, and hopefully able to do it again and again, and hopefully one day the goal is to make this my full-time gig, folks. So hopefully one day this all pays off, but I know this is just the beginning, and a lot to learn still when it comes to covering football, when it comes to being in the media. I know that, I understand that. So just super excited and super honestly um, looking forward to, I guess, and kind of anticipating what's ahead, and hopefully it's good things. And I know it will be. I'm going to hopefully try to speak that into existence. But let's talk about the BC Lions victory last night more than me here, folks. Quickly, let's get into a game recap. I'm going to try to pull up a little bit of my notes here. We'll see how that works with there we go. How does this look a little better, probably like that. There we go. Hopefully you guys are still seeing me all good. Just pulled up my notes here from the computer, and we'll quickly go through a little bit of a game recap. I have, probably more notes and a little recap. So we'll kind of skip through a little bit of the, just some things that I kind of jotted down just to pique my interest, kind of thing. So the BC Lions actually started with the ball once again. Not too sure. Really would love to know. I don't believe it's announced in stadium or ever found out throughout the public. I'm not too sure. If anybody knows officially, if there's anywhere you can find out who won the toss, and yes, the Lions started with the football, but I I'm gonna go on the side that Edmonton probably won, deferred to the second half. BC started with the football, but you never know, right? Maybe BC won the toss, was kind of maybe feeling a little bit confident, feeling like they needed to score a little bit early, being back in BC place. They take the football, but I find that a little hard to believe and would think that Edmonton probably won the toss. They deferred to the second half. BC took the ball. They started at their 29-yard line, and the Lions were definitely looking to establish the run, which is I think a good thing that a lot of I know fans and the fan base have been calling for. Even someone like myself, I think you could see a little bit more William Stanback featured, but you could see the emphasis early that they wanted to try to establish Will, get him some early touches. They also were bringing in a lot of double tight ends with Pearson coming in again with David Mackey and presenting some really heavy sets and trying to run the ball. Wasn't really working too much throughout the entirety of the game. I know William Stanback only ended with I believe 11 carries. I want to say a majority of those probably came there in the first quarter, second quarter, and the Lions were really they were trying to get some momentum, but unfortunately for the Lions offensive line, who has been in the good books, I guess you could say, the last couple of weeks, not allowing sacks, and even we could go into 3 straight weeks now. I believe they didn't allow a sack again yesterday. Um, wasn't really able to get much of a push on a Elks defensive line that I think you would like. You would like to see that against. Excuse me, and um, it was definitely just a little bit frustrating because I think there was opportunities there that if they could have had, maybe 2 or 3 more yards, you can stay on your guy a little bit longer as an offensive lineman. You can allow your running back a little bit more lane. It seemed like a lot William Stanback was kind of getting met, within the line of scrimmage or maybe a yard or two downfield. So not a lot of momentum for Stanback. He runs so hard, and I feel like once he gets up to that momentum, he's kind of like for NFL fans, he runs really hard, but he can kind of I'm trying to think of who to compare him. I was going to compare him to like Isaiah Pacheco, but I feel like that's a wrong comparison. But just somebody that runs really hard, and once you can get up to momentum, it's hard to bring down. Um, and I think it was unfortunate for Stanback because they were trying to get him going, wasn't able to really get momentum to get up to top speed, kind of like an 18-wheeler, right? Takes a little bit of time to get into gear into top speed. And not that Will's, a Derrick Henry type back, but he's not a burner by any means as well. And I think he needs that, be able to get to the line of scrimmage or a yard or two pass to really get up to his full speed, and then really kind of start to, maybe hit a home run ball or two or there. But Lions weren't able to get much success going early. BA, I believe, in the offense I believe it was a first down, and then 2 plays they punted to start the first quarter there. Elks really had not much going on. I believe they actually got a punt single on their first possession, and the first quarter was kind of not much to be seen. Obviously, it was I believe 4-3 to end the first quarter there, but we did have for the first time, I know Lions fans have been calling. We got to see the David Mackey experiment with the short yardage team early there on, and I don't believe actually it was maybe midway through the first quarter there, and something that personally I've been clamoring for as well, that the Lions need to figure it out, whatever it is possible. Now, I definitely was a little bit playful in the way I was kind of tweeting about some short yardage situations that happened later on in the game. But I think I like I like the idea now. Whether it came because um, Vernon Adams is kind of dealing with some sort of abdominal injury, um, is one thing, or it was kind of, maybe Neil McAvoy went into the locker room and said, you know what, Rick, we got to figure this out. We can't have our quarterback doing this. Whoever kind of called the shots, maybe it's Mr. Amar Doman up top. It really came down and said, this is enough is enough. We need to protect our quarterback. If we don't have VA, things, no offense to Jake Delgado, I don't know if things are as high in BC, or people are as high on BC without VA. So a smart decision. Obviously, some plays in the future will be talked about and are unfortunate, but I think that's just the way the ball bounces, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit later on. But unfortunately, we did see the start of what I believe to be an injury to Stanley Berryhill early on in the first quarter. I do remember early on there he caught, and it might have even been on his jet sweep, if I can remember correctly. But it was some sort of, it might have even been a bubble pass, but it was a 9-yard play, and then Stanley Berryhill ended up coming off the field, went into the tent, some sort of lower body injury. I don't believe the Lions have listed that or have put it out anywhere. So if anyone's seen that, what it's officially listed at, please maybe put it in the chat below. And then, a cool kind of moment for myself, for a lot of CGFL people maybe. Kieran Passant came in, played a few snaps in his place. I believe Stanley Berryhill ended up coming back into the game later, came back out, but Passant got some burn in a regular season game, although wearing the nice number of 74 as a receiver. Still got to get some burn in the CFL game. I know he probably doesn't give a care what number he's wearing. I know personally I wouldn't. If I was in a CFL game, who cares, because you're in the bigs, and kind of you're doing it. So I was even kind of, paying attention on a few plays. I thought he could have been targeted. There was definitely one particular play I thought he could have been targeted, where the Lions were driving, I would say, inside Elks territory, on a second, and I think it was the um, intended pass to Alex Hollins that BA kind of threw more like a corner route, and Alex Hollins kind of broke it off more like a out pattern. Overthrew Alex Hollins, overthrew the defender who kind of tried to peel off and intercept it. I thought VA, if and no fault to VA, he kind of, whether you want to call it his reads, his eyes went to the right side of the field, went to, if I'm not mistaken, Justin McInnes and Alex Hollins. I can't fault them for that. I believe, uh, if I'm not mistaken, whatever the other receiver on that side ran a post pattern with Hollins running the out underneath. I believe it was Justin McInnes. I can't blame him for kind of taking his eyes right. But if he takes his eyes to the left, I believe he has Kieran Brisson in on kind of like a whether it was a curl route or a dig route where he's going to keep going into. He was on the left side of the field and kind of coming towards the middle of the field, or he was just going to curl up. Not sure, but he had enough separation where the defensive back was kind of in his deep third, playing quite a ways back, and had, probably 4 or 5 yards of separation, where if VA's eyes or maybe his reads took him that way, I think he had a completion there and would have kept the chains moving. I believe that was a second down, if I'm not mistaken, and the Lions ended up kicking a field goal. What was early on, I believe, was the Lions' first point to the board, excuse me. And not much else happened in the first quarter other than, like I mentioned, finishing 4-3. Both teams trade field goals, and the punt single that came early on there in the first quarter. And then to end it, a couple of huge defensive plays by the Lions secondary there. Um, and I guess we'll start with GP, who made a huge open field tackle on Kevin Brown coming around the edge, who I think would have popped it for another bigger play on this possession to end the first quarter. Gary Peters coming up from his corner position, who's, a solid tackler, I would say, but not, kind of known for his tackling ability. And especially on a guy like Kevin Brown, who I think, not too sure how, how much the CFL fan base is high on him, but personally, I'm pretty high on Kevin Brown. I know he's not off to a terrific start this year in Edmonton, but a good back like him to make a surefire tackle like that. And then on second down, Patrice Rene comes around the corner, unblocked from his linebacker position, and smokes McLeod Bethel Thompson And big hat tip to McLeod Bethel Thompson for holding on to that football. It was a huge hit and definitely like huge lifted McLeod Bethel MBT's feet off the ground. And the Elks punted from there, and the second quarter began at 4-3, like I mentioned, and then that's where VA started to feature. The first quarter, it seemed like he was kind of he's been kind of vocal in saying, I'm not, because I think maybe the media is maybe the way they're asking some of these questions. VA takes it as he's like locked in on Alex Hollins and that's it, but uh kind of seemed like that early on. And then in the second quarter, we kind of started to see, Aiden Eberhard, who ended up leading the game in receptions and yards, start to kind of take over a little bit more, which was nice to see. I believe he finished the game with six receptions for 78 yards. I believe that was on seven targets as well. So he only had, when the ball was thrown his way, only one time the ball wasn't caught, which was, I believe, the first time. I believe he was 100% up until that point. So still a great catch percentage, still reliable as heck. I know there's been a lot of, I don't want to say Brian Burnham comparisons, but just the reliableness, the consistency from Aiden Eberhard. I know he doesn't have crazy numbers, but when BA throws him the ball, I think he has a lot of trust in him. He comes down with the ball a lot, and it was cool actually, kind of having a little bit of access down on the field there and stuff like that. I was able to actually interact with Aiden after the game, kind of tell him good game, Aiden, and kind of I told him about I guess familiar. Kind of, I guess, acquaintances that he knows here on Vancouver Island that play with the organization that I used to play with, the Vancouver Island Raiders. So it was actually kind of cool to have a quick talk with him and you know give him his kudos for playing a heck of a game. And I think he's off to a terrific start here in his sophomore season in the CFL as a professional. So VA started to feature him a little bit more. I remember one big throw on, I believe it was a out pattern, or maybe it was a corner that he threw kind of flat towards the sideline, right towards actually the sideline where we were up above, and it was a beautiful ball. I want to say it was on second down, but just a beautiful throw by VA, and an even better catch by Aiden Eberhard to get 2 feet down, even though you only need one, but the good American gets 2 feet down, and right at the sideline, kind of goes out of bounds, and it was a great throw and catch. And then the Lions kind of started to march from there. The uh, big play from Alex Hollins that followed, I believe, was 35 yards that took the Lions down to the 8-yard line of the Edmonton Elks. Um, and from there, I believe I actually uploaded a quick little video on X, folks. So go check that out. And like I mentioned, the view from the press box is perfect. I actually usually when I partake, or when I go to BC Lions games and I watch as a fan, I go sit down as low as possible, as close as I can get to row A, front row. But the view from up top is fabulous because you're able to get that all 22 look. And I really enjoyed that perspective. I was able to get a video, and stay tuned, folks, because I will be putting out probably on a regular basis when I go to cover the games now. I'll try to, take a good amount of clips, which I did. My phone little camera roll there is I could I could hit a couple of scrolls on the screen, and still kind of go with my videos that I took from the game. So stay tuned for that, folks. I'm going to go through somewhat of an all 22 breakdown. I'm no expert, but some things that I liked from my perspective, some things that maybe people can, maybe agree on, maybe they disagree on, maybe they want to see other things. But stay tuned for that. But go check out the little clip I put from this touchdown there with 11:35 left to go in the second quarter, and was a great call by Coach Maximic. One of his many great calls this game. Once again, um, I think he could have maybe featured some of the calls that I'm kind of referring to, or some of those bubble screens to Stanley Berryhill, some of these screen passes to uh, William Stanback. We saw, I believe, one in the first quarter. We saw this one, which wasn't a screen pass, but it was basically trips to the field side, if I'm not mistaken. Might have been even boundary side. But anyways, trips to the right side of the field. and they all basically one of the receivers, I believe it was the inside receiver, ran a deep corner route, taking his defender to the back of the end zone. The other two receivers ran the one inside receiver ran a crosser, the other one ran a post to kind of take the defenders out of that area. Edmonton brought some pressure and came off the edge unblocked, and VA was able to find a William Stanback wide open, leaking out of the backfield for the first touchdown of the game. BC went up 10-4, which was being there. It looked like maybe the start of the momentum from there, because the Lions got, I believe, a quick um, or no, that was actually so afterwards. It was the unfortunate um, Lions looked to get a stop, get a penalty called, and then a deep shot down the sideline on Cianti Evans. Looked to be like a little bit of a miscommunication in the secondary. Was talking to, I believe it was Ronald Kent there afterwards. And then on the following play, I don't remember exactly the uh, play, which is my fault for not putting it in the notes. But unfortunate to see Josh Woods carted off the field, and which was later announced by Coach Campbell that he will be done for the season with a season-ending. I would think it's some sort of lower body injury. As far as um, how accurate I can be on that, we can't, because they weren't given, whether it's maybe an ACL or an Achilles. I would kind of figure that. I didn't see an air cast on him, so I would kind of rule out broken limbs, broken bones. Um, but who knows? Maybe they just wanted to get him off the field as quick as possible. But either way, the card did come out. So, T's and P's, thoughts and prayers to Josh Woods. He was, I feel like, about to really step into his own as a first year full time starter. Took over there late in the season, excelled there in the playoffs when the BC Lions hosted Calgary. Didn't have had a quieter game in against Winnipeg, but this year, I think he's been pretty solid outside of, Ben Laddick and Josh Woods. You probably like to see a little bit more out of them in terms of activeness. Week one versus Toronto, but I feel like they've been, good week two at home versus Calgary, and then week three they were not bad until, Ben obviously goes down now, Josh, but Rick obviously assured after the game as well in his post game and media availability that Ben Laddick will be back next week. Like I was talking about, actually, no, we were talking off camera with, I was talking to Blake about, I think it was more precautionary than anything. We heard earlier in the week that Ben Hladick was going to have a hand procedure to get him ready for Thursday night's game. I'm guessing, they had the hand procedure. What I told Blake was I don't even want to use the word setback, but, they probably said, you know what, Ben, is this really worth it to, get an infection on an open wound or something like that? Have you miss long term? It's going to swell up, it get all infected. Not good. Or even just rush it, because having a hand procedure, I'm not too sure what exactly happened. Maybe there's some chip bones or something like that, or um, I wouldn't be too sure that the quick hand procedure that could get him back in time to play on Thursday, but who knows? Either way, Coach Rick Campbell said that he will be back this, is it coming Sunday when we travel to Hamilton? Excuse me, when BC travels to Hamilton to take on the Ticats. So after that Josh Woods play, like I mentioned, I thought the Lions were about to kind of snap out of it. I was expecting a little bit of a lull coming into this game, with the Lions kind of being on a short week, as well as the Elks. I was telling a few friends of mine, kind of asking for betting tips to uh, probably lean towards the under. I don't know if BC and the Edmonton Elks will kind of come out of the gates firing. I think this is going to be like a third or fourth quarter game where points are scored then. And was kind of right, not really in terms of when the points came. The points ended up not really coming. It was kind of a quiet game. A lot of I don't know if I actually said it publicly, but I said, actually, I might even said it to that same friend that, both teams' strengths are on offense, and defenses are kind of weaker. So that's why I thought they would kind of get closer to the over under. I believe it was a 56 points. But obviously 24-21, 40, what is it? 45, excuse me. Um, the saying school kids, that's all I'll say. And other than that, the points never came, like I was talking about. But let's get back into it, folks, before I get a little bit too distracted with my notes here and trying to fix them. But the Elks, after the Josh Woods injury, like I mentioned, kind of BC hard to kind of rally or respond when you see the cart come out, especially for a guy like Josh Woods, who I think is a leader in that locker room, a guy that is liked in that locker room, a guy that people rally around, that look to as, even though he's a younger player in the league, still is kind of like a mentor on the team, a good player, right? So um, you know hard to kind of rally and kind of snap out of things for the first few plays, especially when the cart comes out. It's tough to put that in the back of your mind, but uh, the Edmonton Elks end up putting it in the end zone a few plays later. I believe they had maybe a 2 or 3 plays and then into the end zone. I remember a play down in the middle to Curly Gittens Jr., getting them first and goal, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was a Kevin Brown run, and then they end up punching it in. And the or I believe it was actually the touchdown was a personal foul, roughing the passer as well on Sione Tiamu, who's been um, called for quite a few of those now, which you don't like to see this early in the season. I wonder how much kind of Coach Campbell gets on him about that, and that's something I have questions about, or kind of maybe criticism, that's what you want to call it, about Coach Campbell. Of to me, and I know it's been said through it's been said from a few people in the fan base. Now, I don't totally agree with the full statement, but Coach Campbell all the time, I feel like, doesn't say much on the field when it comes to being vocal with his guys. That doesn't have to be yelling by any means, right? Because in today's era, I feel like there's a lot of old school guys that just like to yell for the sake of yelling. So I don't have to see you yelling and screaming out and kind of just tearing into your guys and going up one side and down the other. But I also want to see you kind of, motivating and kind of, coaching up, if you will, some of your guys, especially some of your young guys, right? You kind of transitioned this year and got a little bit younger with some of your positions. So um, you can also say, he's also doing his job by kind of letting his position coaches do their job as well. So tough line to walk. But that being said, just curious of, is it John Bowman that's maybe said something now to Sony Tama that, we're 4 weeks in the season. I believe he's had maybe at least 3 or 4, personal fouls. If you had a personal foul a game, maybe, John Bowman's kind of old school. He likes that, where you're kind of setting the tone. It's not too costly. This one, ultimately, they just cost him on special teams. And uh, ultimately, I guess it doesn't really matter too much. That being said, the BC Lions get the ball back after the Elks take the 11-10 lead after the Elks touchdown. And BC quickly goes 2-0 after I thought they needed to kind of seize momentum there after the injury. Look to, you know, try to the Elks respond. You try to get some points right back and try to quiet the Elks. No, ultimately it didn't matter going 2-0, but on the second down play, I believe VA targeted Aiden Eberhardt, which is his lone target that he didn't come down with, but deep down the seam, and Aiden Eberhardt had a step on his defender for sure. Now VA didn't overthrow him. He made it a difficult catch though, for sure, and Aiden Eberhardt wasn't able to come down with it. Now, my only gripe from being up top is I did have video of it. William Stanback kind of open underneath. I thought they were doing a good job of kind of utilizing that underneath, utilizing that check down, utilizing the bubble screen, getting the ball out of their hands. And I think that was one thing that was slowing them down a little bit too much. Excuse me, your folks is just getting a little bit dry. That was the one thing that was slowing them down from, um, you know, converting some of these second downs and kind of keeping the chains moving. I thought they were, um, you know, just a half step off of executing on some of these plays that would have made the score little bit different. Now, being at the game, I'll be honest, I thought Vernon Adams had more than, what was he, 27 to 38. So he was 11 incompletions. Being there, I thought he would have been maybe like closer to 60%. You hope to never be lower than 60%, but being there, there was definitely some incompletions, especially in the first half. A lot of, like I was mentioning earlier, targeting. It felt like he was targeting in on Alex Hollins and really not reading the field truly, uh, letting his reads take him naturally where he wants to go. It felt like he was wanting to go to Alex Hollins pretty early and often, and that kind of bit the Lions in the behind, but ultimately the Lions punt there after the Elks touchdown, and no harm, no foul. I believe the Elks and Lions end up trading a few uh, punts here back and forth. And afterwards, let me get into some notes here. I believe to get into the right, it was so the Elks were driving, which looked like to take an even bigger lead, excuse me, at the half. Got called for a delay of game penalty, and Chris Jones sets out the field goal unit, and or no, excuse me, the punt unit after the delay of game call for the punt single, taking the 12-10 lead, and that was the score at halftime, if I'm not mistaken. The Lions trailing 12-10, which was, I don't know if I want to say concerning, but expected a slow start. Never want to go into the locker room losing. Maybe that's being a little bit critical, but Lions going in uh, down 2 points. Now still well within reach, still a lot of game left. Not much happens here down the stretch here, folks, until we get into the fourth quarter. Both teams trying to, get into the end zone. The Lions start to get a little bit back on track, but it just seemed like the Lions were, like I mentioned, being there. It felt like VA um, had more than 11 incompletions. It felt more like he was probably like 24 of what was he? He was like 21 to 38, something like that, like six more incompletions. Um, and they were executing it. Just I guess maybe the CFL when it's just some of those 1, 2 and outs. Sometimes you're not adding up that extra play as well. So not much really happens down the stretch here. Uh, I know MVT kind of wants maybe a throwback to shout out to friend of the podcast Gavin Cobb. I believe it was a corner route towards the Elks end zone, Elks side of the end zone. MVT let it go due to some pressure in his face for sure, but overthrew a Gavin Cobb who was most likely going to walk in for a touchdown. Um, and the Elks from that point were driving after a McLeod Bethel Thompson 20-yard scramble, which was looked to be like the ultimate gut punch here in the third quarter, taking the Elks into BC inside the BC 20-yard line, and then Seontae Evans on a beautiful interception stepped in front of the receiver. Now, whether you want to say MBT was a little bit late on the throw is one thing, but to me it looked like Seontae Evans kind of made a perfectly timed break on the ball, was able to be basically he ran the route for the receiver, be right in front of the intended target, take the interception. Wasn't able to take it, get a decent return. I believe he kind of take it. Was trying to go more laterally than kind of go north south. Ended up getting a little bit north and south, and the Lions took over from there. But the Lions once again squabble any opportunity to take advantage of some momentum and go 2-0. And was a little bit of some, definitely tough, but unfortunate. And the third quarter was kind of capped off by, and kind of, I guess, it's kind of a perfect picture of how the night went. Was I want to say maybe a second and manageable situation. Vernon Adams and the Lions, I guess I should say Jordan Maximic calls up a half roll to the right side. VA's on the run, and looked like Stanley Burial had maybe a step or two on his defender. VA airs it out, isn't able to come down with the football, and is just overthrown. Stanley Berryhill, leaps out to grab the football, goes right through his fingertips. Is inches away from being a caught football, inches away from being a perfectly thrown football, and isn't able to come down with the ball. So, kind of like I mentioned, a perfect way to capsulize the evening that was the for the Lions offense that night. And I believe the third quarter ended with the, um, you know, another few good calls, but with the injury to Stanley Berryhill, on another bubble screen. We saw, I believe it was one or two bubble screens, if I'm not mistaken, to Stanley Berryhill, which with his type of speed, I think that's a great way to get him involved. But ultimately, I hope it wasn't both bubble screens that he got injured. Um, was kind of his downfall. Now maybe he's a little bit of a smaller build, which is unfortunate for him as well. But um, tough, unfortunately, because Stanley Berryhill ended up leaving the game and not returning there in the third quarter, if I'm not mistaken. Like I mentioned, Kieran Fassant, former Russia Rebel, ended up coming into the game for a little bit, but ended up kind of being replaced. And the Lions, used a little bit of David Mackey. They went heavy with, Pearson. They also threw in a little bit of Terry Williams. I saw got some burn as well in the offense in the fourth quarter. So, um, another beautifully called screen pass to Jordan Maximic, who continues to just be one of the great young minds in the CFL in terms of young offensive coordinators, and is building his resume. In my opinion, I've been talking about him being a head coaching candidate since the Nathan Rourke days. Now maybe Nathan Rourke gets a lot of that credit, which is rightfully so. He's in the NFL for a reason. Um, I think Jordan Maximic is a fabulous offensive coordinator and only is a asset for one Vernon Adams. So continues to call some great plays. I think I would like to have the all 22 and be able to see on some of these throws that were downfield that just missed. Did be having me a check down in the flat where he could have picked up another 5 or 6 yards. They get into whether it was on first down, a second and manageable situation, or on second down, it's a third and manageable situation. And maybe they go for it, and or maybe they pick it up because it's a first and manageable situation to begin with. Some of those deep shots, I remember it was only 2nd and 6, stuff like that. So. You know, you wonder, and I wish I had access to that, but maybe I will be able to see it in a few clips on some of these incompletions. I did, like I mentioned, have quite a few clips to go through. So stay tuned, folks. Maybe we'll have some, and I'll be posting that on my personal channel. But as always, we will be retweeting on the Canadian Football Fanatics as well. So the fourth quarter started with the Lions driving after the Stanley Berryhill injury late there in the third quarter, and the Lions, I guess we can get into this perfectly now. How ironic it is that the Lions are driving there to begin the fourth quarter, and the short yardage team gets called upon once again, and that is David Mackey's responsibility now. For the first time, we see it early in the game. He's 1 for 1, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he got what is it, 5 carries? Yeah, 5 carries on 17 yards and a touchdown. Um, you know, 5 opportunities to run a quarterback sneak. He was successful in all of them, but this one, unfortunately. And he was successful to begin with, but I think he got, if you want to say it, a little bit greedy, folks. I think his eyes lit up a little bit when he turned that corner, wasn't taken down, saw the end zone, a little bit loose with the football. I think he was maybe going to try to extend and reach out for that goal line. Ends up getting punched out. And the Luchez Purifoy, Edmonton Elks safety, ends up punching it out of bounds. Last to touch it, Edmonton Elks ball. And the BC Lions get nothing to begin the fourth quarter there, and definitely put a damper into the spirits of BC Place, which was a little bit underwhelming. I guess this is a nice time to talk about it when it comes to um, attendance. Now, that being said, understandably, because it's a Thursday night, in the summertime in Vancouver, tough for people to want to come down into the traffic and stuff like that. I understand that, but that being said, I would have liked to see a few more people come to the game. I don't know if they announced it, the official attendance. If anybody knows that, please put that in the chat. I was looking for that after the game. I had to kind of rush out of there, unfortunately. Like I said, catch the ferry and come back to the island. But if anybody knows that, like I mentioned, put in the chat below. I would love to know the official attendance. And definitely put things into lines of being like, are we going to about to lose this game to the Edmonton Elks here in the fourth quarter? But the Lions drive, or the Elks drive ends up getting extended by back-to-back 15-yard penalties by the BC Lions. I believe one was a face mask, one was another roughing the passer, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and the Elks punch it in for a touchdown on the following few plays, I believe, and make it 19-13 lead on a 9-play 106 drive with 7:34 left in the fourth quarter. And kind of was looking like, oh no, this is not good. The Lions don't get points, and it is a quick 6 point swap when it comes to point. Uh, Lions should have had 6 points, regardless should have had 3 points, and the Elks are able to turn over the football, go get 6 points themselves. Um, the Mackey fumble, I believe, was inside the Lions, what 5 yard line. So, like I mentioned, 9 play, 106 yard drive for a touchdown. Looked like a pretty impressive drive there in the fourth quarter for the Edmonton Elks. I believe they got the ball with maybe 12, 13 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. End up marching it 5 minutes later. They punched in the end zone. And the Elks went for a 2 point conversion to try to make it a 8 point lead, which is smart on their part. Obviously, only up six. Going up seven, yeah, you could, but why not try to go for um, you know, not the dagger per se, but try to put some pressure on BC. And Gary Peters ends up coming down with a tip pass, and looked like he was able to maybe he was bobbing and weaving, maybe going to potentially take it for a return. Wasn't able to, unfortunately, and that was all for the Elks possession. They go up 19-3. Um, the now the BC was kind of marching there, and I believe it was the end of a possession, which looked like, and uh, Vernon Adams on a second down ends up trying to go deep to Aiden Eberhardt. And on replay, you can obviously see the defender holds Aiden Eberhardt's left hand, kind of down and kind of not letting him go get up the ball because Aiden tries to put up both hands to try to go to the football. And on without review, it was called no pass interference. Now, hard for a bang bang play like that for the referee to kind of see that hand grabbing, that hand fighting type stuff. So maybe cut them a little bit slack, but not called on the field. Rick Campbell instantly sees the replay there in BC Plate, which is greatly put on the big screen right away, and throws a challenge flag. The BC Lions get pass interference to keep the drive going, and that sets the BC Lions up inside the 10-yard line, down 19-13 late in the fourth quarter. So I believe the Lions end up handing the ball to William Stanback, getting him down a little bit closer, and then David Mackey ends up coming in and punching in for a 21 for a touchdown, excuse me. And kind of funny, it was a third time's the charm for the BC Lions. 2 point conversion try. They end up going for two to try to take a 3 point lead on the Edmonton Elks. End up going for it once. I believe it was a holding on BC. And then the next one was a illegal contact on the receiver on Edmonton. And then the third attempt, excuse me, was the I believe Vernon Adams scrambled to his right, saw Justin McKinnon get some separation, put it up to the corner of the end zone on the BC Lions side of the field, and comes down with 2 point conversion, taking a 3 point lead in the fourth quarter on their fourth try, which was huge. And from that point on, the Edmonton Elks took over the ball and marched it down for a Boris Beatty field goal with 52 yards, from 52 yards with a minute and 11 remaining, which, minute and 11 in the CFL, way too much time if you're able to convert a few times. Now, I was surprised why the BC Lions elected to receive instead of just take the ball at the 40-yard line. That being said, all things work out, and that is just a no need to talk about it, I guess, is what we can say, because the BC Lions end up marching the ball down the field, and Sean White ends up kicking his 28th consecutive field goal with no time remaining to give the BC Lions a 24-21 victory over the Edmonton Elks in Week 4 in the CFL. And that is your game recap, folks. Now let's get into a few. Actually, let's get into Let's get into my game ball here first. Get into game ball. Let's bring it up. Yeah, let's bring it up. Oh, I guess we don't have a. That's a shame. I thought we did. Okay, folks, I lied. We don't have a game ball little banner, so excuse my little fib there. Let's get into game balls first. Now, Had a few options for this. I'm going to give a honorable mention to William Stanback, who had a quiet game at rushing. What was he? 11 carries, 42 yards, but chipped in 4 receptions for 41 yards and a touchdown. The touchdown there in the first half of the BC Lions, and was a key factor catching the ball. I believe those 2 screen passes were huge plays. Now I believe they weren't, 20 yards plus. I believe they're like 15 yards each around there. Sounds about right. But were well executed. Where I thought maybe you could have seen them a little bit earlier. I don't know if I could say go as far to say well timed, but was able to chip in through the air, get into the end zone through the air, and I think having was that 14 combined touches for 83 yards and a touchdown. Not too bad, not too shabby. That being said, he is not my game ball. He's not getting my game ball, excuse me. My game ball is going to kicker Sean White. Yes, folks, kicker Sean White is getting the game ball tonight for kicking his career high 26th, 27th, and 28th, if I'm not mistaken, consecutive field goals in a row. Now, this is the last time I'm going to talk about it, folks. Let's knock on wood. Let's do all the things. Remember, consecutive field goal kicker streaks are kind of like, the S word in hockey. You don't talk about it, especially if you're announcers, right? You don't want to be the Al Michaels, Tony Romo jinx of, on Sunday Night Football, and you hear Tony Romo say, "This kicker hasn't missed a field goal in how long?" And he ends up missing. The great Justin Tucker misses these kicks. So last time we'll talk about it, but the great Sean White is getting my game ball tonight for his career high and his game-winning field goal kick. So Sean White continues to be Mr. Automatic. So let's get into our likes and dislikes before we get out of here. Let's get into, I guess, maybe. Let's go with likes. All right, we went dislikes first last week. So we're gonna keep that tradition going. I disliked the injuries that came up, unfortunately, for the Lions. Josh Woods obviously going down for the season. I would think, depending, the Lions are going to get a mini bye here. We'll see how Stanley Berryhill recovers, but he could potentially maybe miss a game versus the Hamilton Tiger Cats on the road. So is that, Kieran Passant obviously is probably going to travel. I did see him out in some special teams units. I believe he was on kick return, I believe. I saw him on a few special teams units for sure. So is he valuable that way? Is he valuable enough to play receiver? Obviously, this game they felt comfortable enough throwing him in, but they didn't feel comfortable enough to, when the chips were on the table in the fourth quarter, they didn't feel comfortable enough to have him in there. So that was interesting as well. And if Stanley Berryhill kind of gets injured, he's already our depth receiver, right? And maybe is it Ezekiel Tuiday, Lions draft pick? Who knows? I don't know. He has been drafted all year, right? And maybe we see Terry Williams get a little bit featured in the offense, and someone like a Stanley Berryhill can return kicks. Maybe Ezekiel Tuiday gets activated. He can return kicks, something like that. But Terry Williams, they did use him in the fourth quarter, but I don't think they want to use him as a full-time receiver and special teams player. I don't think he's going to get enough juice. But I'm going to go with my first dislike as being the injuries. Now, the fact that my main man, Blake, isn't here, I will give a dislike, I guess, for Blake. And my dislike, I believe, will go to, I guess you could say the offensive execution. Um, I think the Lions secondary had a better night tonight. Definitely been a little bit critical of them. The 9-play 106-yard drive was definitely hard to stomach watching, especially from a secondary standpoint. I think they were beat multiple times, but they held MVT to 19 to 30, 11 incompletions as well, 247, so not even over 300 yards like Vernon Adams. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. So did their job, made sure to keep them out of the end zone when it mattered. So, got to tip your cap to the defense. I'm going to go with the lack of execution on the offense. Excuse me, folks. As far as my second dislike, and I think I had a back and forth with I hope I could say maybe friend of mine, acquaintance of mine. I could name drop. I feel like I could name drop him, but Bryce, he's kind of like a quarterback coach in the Lower Mainland area, and he said Brent Adams had he said a bad game, I believe, and I said I don't know if I can go as far to say that. I think he had a fine game, right? Not his best game by any means. Not I don't know if I could go as far as say a good game, but the fact that we're not saying that's a good game when he goes 27 to 38, 11 incompletions, 331 and touchdown, not sacked once again, no turnovers, if I'm not mistaken. Might have been a turnover on downs considered on the missed field goal attempt there in the, I want to say, first quarter, which is a little bit shitty because there could have been more points on the board, but ultimately no turnovers from BA, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and I think that's a good thing. Now he did look off. He did miss some targets, and like I mentioned, I think Alex Hollins having 8 targets and only having four receptions. We criticized Travis Fulgham last week for having what was it, six targets, 1 reception. If you have any more than 4 incompletions and kind of, or I guess, double your targets and you don't have a lot of results, I feel like BA might lose confidence in you. And not that he's going to lose confidence in Hollins, it's just not a good thing for the offense. It stalls a lot of drives. And seemed like, of those 4 incompletions to Hollins, I feel like, BA was quite locked in. And those are only, 11 of those, 4 of those 11 are you know, intended targets to Holland. So, the other 7 are, to various receivers who, the Stanley Berryhill one that just goes through his fingertips. There's a few that don't come to that come to mind. But I thought BA had a fine game. Just the lack of execution hurts. I believe I heard JC Abbott say in the post game that the Lions are 7th, I believe, in the CFL in scoring. That being said, the Lions are still 3-1, so still things to hang your hat on when it comes to that. But never a good sign when you're 7th in the league in scoring out of 9 teams, and got to see that change for sure. And that has been a problem all season, is the lack of execution and being able to execute for all 60 minutes. Now, I know we're getting a little bit close here, folks, to the Toronto Argonauts Montreal game, which I am excited for. I'm not going to be. I'm going to be honest, folks. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it for the full game. I hope you can't see too big of bags in my eyes. I am running on such little sleep right now. I almost stayed up for 24 hours yesterday. Got up, went to work at 5:30 yesterday. Caught the 3 o'clock boat over to Vancouver. Went to the game at 7 o'clock. Caught the 11 o'clock ferry back. Got home around 12:30 midnight on Friday. Ended up getting up to go to work this morning for some crazy reason. I don't know why I didn't take the day off. And get home from work. And 30 minutes later, I jump on live here with you guys. So after this, I'm looking forward to ordering some food, sitting down, watching some CFL football, and I am hoping to keep my eyes open for all 60 minutes of the game, but no promises. It should be a really good football game. Montreal and Toronto tonight, the battle of undefeateds in the Eastern Division. I am looking forward to it and hoping if I close my eyes for any part of the game, it's the first half, wake up for the second half, and it's a beauty of a second half. So let's get into my likes quickly before the game kicks off. So I see 54 people tuning in here on Twitter, on YouTube. So if you guys are tuning in on YouTube, please subscribe if you aren't. If you're on Twitter, please head on over to the YouTube after this and subscribe. It'd be greatly appreciated. Like I always mention on the show, 75% of you guys that are tuning in are not subscribed, and we have a goal here of reaching 200 subscribers by the 1st of July in a matter of days. On Monday, I believe last time I checked, we had 193, so 7 more to go. 75% of 54. We definitely have 77 of those in there. So please, if you're on Twitter, head on over to the YouTube, subscribe to the channel. It'd be so greatly appreciated to get us to that 200 mark. And I guess while we're plugging a few things, keep following and keep supporting our Twitter and Instagram at _CF Fanatics on Twitter, at Canadian Football Fanatics on Instagram. That would be greatly appreciated. Instagram is continuing to do well. We were up over 400 followers now in probably about 400 months, or 400 months, 400 subscribers in about 4 months. So, 100 subscribers a month is not bad. I think we could grow a little bit more, which is, partly my fault because I would like to post a little bit more, but working full time, folks, is a little bit hard to do. So, that being said, I think let's get into it. No more plugs before the end of the show. Uh, let's get into likes. I liked, um, I guess you could say, the way the defense kind of shut the door at pivotal times. I thought they, as always, bend and not broke. Um, that being said, the 9 play 106-yard drive just sticks in my memory as a wow. The Lions about to let this one go. There obviously was 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. They end up making making right on their wrong, winning the football game, and all is right. But I will go with the like to the Lions defense for bending and not breaking. I think the Elks offense has been on somewhat of a tear here the last few weeks. McLeod Thompson last week had what 370 plus yards or something like that. It's held to 270 or 250, excuse me, this week. 11 incompletion. So that offense is quieted. Now obviously they were dealing to injury to their leading receivers. Mayala is it I always forget his first name. Hergy Mayala, if I'm not mistaken, or Sergi Mayala. I always wait to say Sergi, but I want to say it's Hergy Mayala. Their leading receiver, Canadian leading receiver, with I believe it was 4 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. But he comes on the lineup, and you see Gavin Cobb, friend of the show, fellow Vancouver Island boy, Victoria, BC's very own. Gavin Cobb get a start and had a for sure touchdown if MBT was able to hit him there in the third quarter, if I'm not mistaken. But Gavin, caught a few passes that were thrown his way. I want to say he was maybe 2 or 3, 3 or 4, something like that, in terms of targets thrown his way and catches caught. So let's get into a like offensively. My like offensively, I guess, would be the emergence of Aiden Eberhardt, the other rec stepping up when McInnes and Holland's only having 4 receptions each, both for 50 yards. McInnes 49 yards, Holland's 55. We say Aiden Eberhardt 7 targets, 6 receptions, 78 yards. Katoy comes back, big cat, Jabon Katoy, or not fellow, whew, that's a bad one. Langley Rung, fellow BCFC alum and Langley Ram, former Langley Ram. Uh, Javon Katoy had, what was it, 5 receptions, 68 yards. I believe that was on 6 targets for Javon Katoy. 6 targets, 5 receptions. So Javon Katoy, good things happen when you throw it in Javon Katoy's direction. He is, almost a la Mr. Automatic when you throw it to his direction. But shout out to Javon for being consistent, for getting back in the lineup after missing with a hamstring injury in Winnipeg. So, any other likes, folks, before we can get out of here? I see there's not too many people active on the chat here tonight, so I'm guessing a lot of our viewers are on X here tonight. So, for anybody that is tuning in, I appreciate you guys so much, even on X, even for not subscribing. But all jokes aside, folks, expect some more content similar to this in the future. I will be post game recapping every BC Lions game from now on. And let me know in the chat. Let me know on social media if you guys like this form better in terms of if you're a BC Lions fan, even if you're not, maybe if you're a CFL fan and just enjoy Lions content and enjoy Lions coverage, wanting to check in on the team. Let me know if you prefer a written article style or in podcast form. I feel like you can get a little bit more out in podcast form. Let your words kind of you can detail your words a little bit more and kind of get a little bit of meaning. Whereas sometimes I feel like words can kind of get a little bit misinterpreted, the way they're kind of said or maybe phrased. So let me know in the chat below. Also, that's the cool thing as well. Going live, you're able to have the chat kind of interact with you, even if you aren't. It's cool because I know 57 of you guys are still tuning in, watching, and enjoying some BC Lions talk here on the show. So, before we get out of here, I guess, some people I know were a little bit disappointed. Lions only won 24-21 over the Elks. The Elks are 0-4. The Elks are a much better team than 0-4. I believe they lost their last 3, if I saw the stat correctly, last 3 by 9 points combined, or maybe it's their first 4 by 9 points combined. So the Elks are a much better team, and they just continue to, I don't even want to say find ways to lose, just give away games. It's unfortunate. Coming late, they're not able to, execute. Excuse me here, folks. They're not able to execute at a high level, or just the way that they are in previous in the trying to say that the the 3 quarters that were behind them. And for whatever reason, they get in the fourth quarter, and whether it's maybe they get a little bit, tight, they start to, press because, let's just we gotta win a game, and they're not coming up with these results. For whatever reason, they just find a way to kind of lose games in the fourth quarter. Um, and the Elks are a much better team, like I was mentioning. That being said, the BC Lions played 4 games, folks, in 18-game stretch in the month of June here to start the season. I believe it kicked off was it June 8th or maybe June 6th? The Lions played Toronto in Toronto. They play Calgary. They play Winnipeg. They play uh, Edmonton here on what was it, July 27th. In I believe it was a very short turnaround. Might even been June 9th, excuse me, that the Lions played Toronto on a Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. I think June 6th was kickoff. June 9th might have been the Sunday. So the Lions playing, 4 games in 18 days is a hell of a turnaround, a hell of a grind. These guys deserve, a 10-day break in between games. They deserve to have. I would imagine they're going to have, Friday today, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday off from the facility. Probably coming to the facility Tuesday for some sort of day one practice, day two, day three. That being Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Walk through Friday, fly out Saturday, get to Hamilton, play on Sunday, and then come home for the Saskatchewan Roughriders the following week. So I believe that kind of concludes us and kind of wraps us up perfectly in time for the Montreal and Toronto game on Friday Night Football. I can hear the theme music from here. So, for those that are tuning in tonight, 58 of you guys, I see. Please, like I mentioned, head on over to the YouTube and subscribe. It would be greatly, greatly appreciated for everybody that contributes on behalf of Canadian Football Fanatics and 13th Man Sports. Big shout out to Shane as well, obviously allowing me to have place on his platform. Now that being said, I guess a few more thank yous before we get out of here. Shout out to Matt Baker, thank you as always. Shout out to Shane, thank you as always. Thank you to obviously my guy Blake for going to the game, posting a bunch of tweets while he's at the game, as well as his little recap video. I think we're going to start to make that a routine because I don't know if we're going to be able to make post game recaps happen right away, especially if I'm going to go to the games and follow along as a media member. Now that being said, folks, stay tuned. I will have a few ideas or maybe some videos that come out in terms of maybe some content that you guys would like to see, maybe some behind the scenes stuff in terms of, being in the press box, being, at a media availability, stuff like that. Let me know in the comments some stuff that you guys would like to see. Now, that being said, now that was my first game covering, a game in person. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to cover it the way I wanted to, having to rush home like that. But I just had such a great time that it kind of, even overshadowing having to leave. I was just so grateful for the opportunity. I was so excited for what I just kind of went through. Um, it wasn't even that much of a damper. That being said, July 13th versus Saskatchewan, if I'm able to, I plan on sticking around, asking maybe a question or two in the post-game media availability. I definitely plan on learning first, maybe don't plan on being the first guy asking questions. I want to kind of sit on maybe the first interview or two, kind of learn my place and kind of be in that atmosphere for the first time before I officially kind of dive into anything. I actually want to, I guess, here if I can quickly, let's see if I can find it. Don't know if I will be able to though. I wish I could show you guys. I don't remember where. Maybe I put it on the kitchen table, unfortunately, but I wish I could show you guys my media pass, which is super cool. It's something that I'll cherish forever because super cool. And I know Matt's gonna feel bad, and I'm gonna tell him. And it's gonna be funny because through email it might seem a little bit, maybe like I'm little maybe like offended or something like that. But I find it kind of funny because it's like the new guy, the first time you get a media press pass, excuse me. My last name spelled wrong. I am officially known as Cole McCarthy from now on. But jokes aside, still Cole McCarthy. You can find me on Twitter And stay tuned, folks. I will be, like I mentioned, posting a ton of footage from my vantage point up in the press box from a higher vantage point. You're able to see all 20. I said all 22 earlier, all 24. Being in the Canadian Football League up here in the Great White North. So I believe that will end things here tonight for the show, folks. Like I mentioned, like, comment, subscribe, follow, rate, review wherever you're tuning in. All the support is so greatly appreciated and doesn't go without notice. Until then, tell your friends about us. Follow us, rate, review, all that good stuff. We will see you guys Wednesday night for the Canadian Football Fanatics Weekly Show.